I think you proc your X speed and you run around, or if you can dash over, you dash over. Right, now you take that little ZAR2 there, you move from buff to buff to Baltoy to Baltoy. Now at this stage it should be about 9:15. Okay, so this is where your first big decision as a jungler comes in. I think you want to path around here and float between your two SoloQ berries there and there, and you need to make a decision whether you're going to the top lane or the bottom lane. Now this, I think, is purely dependent on how the game is going. If you're running these paths, this is advantageous, because if you decided to run down here and you get seen by the enemy, then that means that their jungler knows where you are. So they can make their decisions and move their positioning with that information. Whereas if you stay out of their vision, and if your team manages to get vision on the enemy jungler at like 8:57, then you know you can charge towards it. Okay, another thing is you can look for the enemy jungler, or if you notice that the enemy team is pushed, I'm gonna put a line here. If the enemy team is above around about here and they're looking to score at that point in time, you are charging there. It doesn't matter if the jungler is there or not. That pretty much means by default you're going to sweep that lane, because if they push forward and you're down here, let's say they're pushing the top lane, you can go SoloQ berry, X speed, and you're up there and you get 1 kill, 2 kills. At best, they've got their jungler manages to come in there, and you've got 3 people who can just sweep, get the kill, get the scores, and then get all this farm, contest that farm, you can really sweep a lane. Okay, so it really just depends on how you're going to float your positioning. Okay, so at least for my example here, here's a snapshot. I can see that my team is pushing a little bit, and I've got vision on 2, and my Clefairy's died, so I don't really know what's going on up here, right? That actually you can tell that they've lacked it so much that they don't even know if that piece of farm is alive or not. They haven't even gotten vision on that piece of farm, so they have not pushed at all, really. Okay, that piece of farm is definitely gone. The enemy's definitely taking it, especially if the Clefairy has died. But I've got to make a decision here. I think my top lane is definitely struggling, but my bottom lane's looking to push, which is great. But at this point in time, it's a 9-minute mark. Generally, the jungler would have been seen, generally, unless if they're playing really smart, by that stage. So I figure that the jungle is probably up here because he notices that the Clefairy's died, so he can really take advantage of that lane. So I've got to make a split, because I've got to make this decision within the span of maybe 2 to 3 seconds. So all this information goes, and I make the decision to sweep up and try and defend the lane as much as possible for 2 reasons. Okay, reason number 1 is that I want no tilting. And reason number 2 being that I don't want to lose too hard. Okay, I could have gone down to this bottom lane here. I could have gone down here, and I could have had a big win. But I don't want to win big in one lane and lose really big in the other lane, so I'm not really down for that. This is at like that 8-minute 30 mark, right? You want to be back in here taking your buffs as quickly as possible. However, you saw in this game that I got pushed way back here. Okay, now all that means for me is that their jungler is overcommitted, which means that this farm for their jungler is still up, and I've got to take the time to kill this, and this, so I'm not going to make it in here in time. I'm not going to make it to the middle farm, which sucks, because that middle farm is where you really want it. That's where the game can swing. Okay, it's right here at this 8-minute mark. The game can really swing. If you have like a 3v3 fight in here and your team wins it, you can really steamroll. Because if you leave one person down here, and you've got one person comes in, so that's your jungler plus 2 laners, that's 3 people, and then those 3 people can then venture up here, or they can venture through here, and they can look to just suffocate and take farm and get scores, and really just travel as a death ball, that at that early point in the game you can get a lot of value there, right? So that's a really, really good thing. And in solo queue, you'll be surprised at how often that actually happens, right? You've just got to, as soon as you're aware of it, you're looking to play with your team. So if you see them playing aggressively, you just play with them, because 2 people running aggressively is not going to be as strong as 3 people running aggressively. Okay, and then we get to the point in the game, and this has been between the 7-minute mark and the 2-minute 30 mark. Okay, it's between this timing here. This is big decision time. Okay, I think you've got a couple of priorities. Priority number 1 is farm, because you need levels. Priority number 2 is presence. Alright, you need to have your levels, because late game you need to be that level 13, level 14. Otherwise, if you're level 12 and their jungle's level 14, that is a big, big difference, okay? The stats of your Pokemon is really, really big. So you've got to have your levels, but you've also got to have presence at these objectives. Okay, you don't get to just farm, and if there's an objective and a team fight going on, you leave it, right? You need to be present. It doesn't mean you have to do flex damage. It means that you need to make sure that you're alive and you're in the right place at the right time for those fights. Now, this purely depends, because I'm gonna, again, I've got a snapshot here that I want to go over. This is 5 minutes 40. This objective down here is done. We've lost that. We've also lost the both lanes. So we're in a losing position. Let's make that clear. We're in a losing position. And there's this objective here. Now we've just taken out a kill. I've just used my Unite move, and we've got some kills, and we've just taken out that first base there. Okay, now you might think, oh, what amazing opportunity to go for that Regieleki. But the problem is, now if this base is wiped, to get any value out of the Regieleki, we have to push it all the way deep and get it into the goal. So I'm just doing a little bit of a weighing there, and I think, okay, that would be great if we had 5 people, but have a look, we've got the Mew and the Ivysaur not with us. So I think it would be time wasting at this position, purely based on the positioning of my team in the solo queue. I think what I need to do is I get a score, I get this farm, I get this farm, I get this farm, I look to push in here, I just look to farm. Okay, look at all the farm that's on the map. My team then, if hopefully they would see me not go for the objective, they base and just take this farm and this farm and this farm and go in here. And then by the time that's respawned. And it doesn't matter, because even if their team goes up to take this objective, they're going to walk it through. By that time, we've farmed up a little bit. We should have some Unite moves to defend. I've got the Energy Amp, so we'll be able to defend that objective, and they're not going to get any value out of it. Okay, they're going to get very little value out of it. So, because we've just taken all the farm on the map, so it's not like they can walk the Regieleki down and then take all our farm, because we've just farmed it all. So, I think at that point in time, it was definitely smart to just go, yep, let's get the score and let's just continue to farm, because we've got to make sure we've got the levels. We don't want to get too far behind. And I think it's just too risky to look to rip, to lose it. 3 of us die, and then all of a sudden they've got 4 people walking this objective down, and at best we've got a 3v2 without a jump pad. Now I just want to talk over this endgame. So here our team is in a really bad position to try and even contest this Regieleki. Our team's not really there in time. We've got 1 person. I'm spamming retreat. I'm happy to sacrifice them getting the Regieleki and pushing in, and our team getting positioning over that. Okay, so we've done our job, we've farmed our way up, and we're going to see why I think Charizard just struggles so much. Because that Espeon outplayed me. I went to try and unite, he backed out in the bush, so I can't walk into the bush and unite him, and he unites me. So such a good player, I just purely got outplayed there. I should have been a lot more patient with the Charizard. But the problem with the Charizard late game, and this is the whole point, you jungle your way through, you get your levels, so that way you can do some good work at this last fight. You're just going to see at this last fight, their teams walk that Regieleki in. I'm still pretty comfortable at this stage. All I need to do is get the Unite move off and get big damage. I'm level 14, right? We've done so well all game. You can see, failed attempt for the Unite move number 1. And then I've got to proc my X speed to get away. So then their team does well, they force me out, and then I look to go again. Flash away. So there's attempt number 2, failed. And then it's a short cooldown. We've got a couple kills there. I think we're in a pretty safe position to, you know, false rip. And then again, there's cancelled ult number 3. Now at this stage, I haven't done enough damage, and look at my health. Okay, I'm literally screwed. Alright, I've got a base, but I can't afford to base. I've got to stay in the fight, so it's just such a tricky position. Because look at the time I base, my team died because I wasn't there. And that really wouldn't have happened if I was just able to get the Unite move off. Okay, so it's a lost cause, right? Even if I get the Unite move off now, it's too late. Again, you can see, failed attempt number 4. I've even lost count. So it's just, you can play as well as you want all game with a Charizard late game. If you can't get off the Unite move, if you don't play absolutely perfectly, it just sucks. And this is just a reason why Charizard has just lost so much value, is that there's so much stuff that avoids the Unite move. So hopefully the jungle guide helps. This is an example of Charizard's good, but up until late game, that's where he's going to struggle. So hopefully you found a bit of value out of it, and hopefully you can learn to jungle and do your rotations and be as maximally value for your team as possible.